Hi, I'm Bob Garrett. Hackensack University Medical Center believes that all citizens need to be informed about the important health issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Caldwell College, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. QualCare Inc., a local managed care company covering 750,000 New Jersey residents. And by Verizon Communications.
This is One-on-One.
That's good acting, yeah.
I get that a lot. I go to Atlantic City all the time, like, are you the guy? I go, no, I'm not.
This is one you can't afford to miss.
They thought that I wouldn't survive it, but I knew I would.
I've been saddled with the same living room furniture for 30 years, all mismatched and grotesque. Every stain on every piece of fabric, a reminder of something horrible, some disastrous day I had to live through. Is it too much to want a fresh start? Is it too much to hope for a clean palette? Huh? I look at that sofa. Ugh, I know it was cream when we bought it. It's just a washed out color of dashed hopes.
You are good. You are great. You're looking at Linda Lavin from looking at the Lyons, right?
The Lyons by Nikki Silver. A great American play, I think. It's a play about a family.
Talk to us about it. By the way, that was one of the only times I wanted to open out of the show. Normally we don't open on the guest, but I'm like, everyone's going to know who she is anyway, so why do that?
Nice.
Talk to about the play.
The play is about a family, about a man who's dying and his wife who is planning to move on. She's reading, as you saw, House Beautiful. She's planning to redo the living room. It's a marriage of 40 years that was where they were attached to each other, as she says later, in contempt. And they have 2 grown children, both of whom are unhappy. It's a typical American family. It's an identifiable American family. You hear the audience identifying, understanding these people. This is a woman with a great deal of suppressed rage, rage packed on rage. And yes, she is planning, and he says, I'm dying, Rita. What do I care what you do with the living room? And he says, I'm dying. And she says, I know, but try to be positive. For God's sake. You know, she wants, she says, I know you won't be there to enjoy it, but I'm thinking Marrakesh. What do you think of a Middle Eastern theme? She has a great sense of humor, as many of those women do. A strong sense of a capacity for, shall we say, for survival. And she's surrounded in loneliness and the job of being a wife and mother, which is true of many women of that generation, of the generation that we come from, and of women today even, who are identified by their children as a mother. And what I love about this play is that he's given me a hopeful ending. This woman comes to life for herself after the death of this grumpy old man. And she decides that she's going to move on. She's going to have a new life. And that liberates women and men in the audience. You can hear it. The exit is heralded with applause. People are thrilled. They are liberated. They are validated. That kind of writing doesn't come along very often.
As we do this program in the middle of June, this play is coming to an end.
Yes, July 1st is our last day, a Sunday afternoon. We're going to be closing.
This show will be seen before that, after that, but having you on, we just need an excuse to have you.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
People know you from so much of your work on television and theater. How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing theater since I came to New York after I graduated from the College of William and Mary. And I came to New York in 1960. I wanted to be an actor. I had been training in theater at William and Mary, which had a wonderful, small, but dynamic theater department. I'd been working in summer stock in your home state, actually. I worked for St. John Terrell at the Camden County Music Circus. That was my first professional job. Yeah, I was in the chorus. See, I can sing, so I could get into choruses, where it was hard to get auditions for plays, for readings as an actress. but I could sing, and you can always get to chorus calls. So that's where I started, in Camden, New Jersey, because I had family friends who lived there. And went back to school, finished, came to New York, and auditioned for choruses, and got into a Broadway show in 1960, and met Hal Prince when we were in Philadelphia trying out the show, and he pulled me out of the chorus and gave me 5 speaking parts. And to this day, we are still friends. And I'm booked to be in his next Broadway musical called Prince of Broadway, which hopefully will start rehearsals next fall.
Terrific.
So it's a long-term, long-time friendship and relationship. He's been a great mentor to me.
Promise you'll come back to talk about that then.
You just asked me. I only live around the corner.
We love that.
Easy.
Hey, did you ever dabble in television?
I dabbled. That's good. I like that.
Do you mind?
It was a 9-year dabble. It was more of a dribble.
Do you mind if we put up the picture?
No.
Put it up, folks.
Oh, there she is.
There she is.
That's the cover of TV Guide.
1976 to 1985.
9 years. Yeah.
How much? Oh God. Did it change everything about your life?
Everything.
Alice.
Politicized me. Totally.
In so many ways.
In so many ways. I mean, when I got the job, I knew that it behooved me to learn about single mothers and working women. So I went to Gloria Steinem, whom I had met briefly, and she hooked me up with writers and columnists and news people who were writing about working women. And I learned that Alice represented 80% of all the women who work in this country, blue and pink collar women, 80% of all the working women who were still struggling at 69 cents to the dollar that men were making for the same quality of work.
Same work.
And so suddenly I had a rhetoric, suddenly I had a commitment, but I was an actress and I had a job, and that was the basic fact.
Right.
Then, after the first few months of being Alice and being on television, I began to be invited to speak at ERA conventions, at marches for the Equal Rights Amendment, at labor conferences, because I represented those women and those men who were also single parents or who had been raised by single parents.
Right.
I had never spoken in front. I mean, I found myself in front of the Washington Memorial, standing on a stage with Pete Seeger singing. I was meant to talk to thousands of people, and I had never done that before. So the first time I went to speak to a group, I thought, what? So I thought, I know what to do. I'll wear the Alice uniform, and she will speak for me. And they drove me into the park in a limousine, and I said, get me out of this. This is not the point. This is about working people. So we walked into the park together, and all I had to do, and I did it for years, was show up in Alice's uniform. And I didn't have to worry about what to say. She spoke. She was me, and I was she, and the uniform spoke for me, and people came up to me and said, you are my mother, I am you, you are my daughter, you've given me courage to go back to school, I'm getting off welfare, if Alice can do it. It was astonishing. She changed my life.
You know, she changed your life.
In many ways.
But you know, the funny thing is, and I know you know this, there are a lot of other actresses who could have played that role, could have been written in the exact same way, would not have had the same impact. And you know that, and I know it. You don't have to respond. What else is coming up?
I'd like to respond, though, and I'll tell you, the fact is that was the time when a lot of people were responding. We were marching for a lot of things in those years, and it was terrific. And it did bring me into a reality that I had never wanted to be in, never thought, you know, that I would be able to do it. So in that way, she changed my life. She also made me financially secure and gave me the power to direct and to produce movies for television. So I did a lot of movies about women who walk through fire.
No, what I meant was, I'm not sure that any other actress would have gotten the same thing, gotten the same reaction. That's what I meant.
Thanks.
Hey,
I
you have some music coming out.
I have some music coming out. I have a CD called Possibilities.
What kind of music are we talking about?
Jazz, standards. It might as well be spring as a bossa nova. Small Hotel. I do a Donald Fagen song called Between the Raindrops. I do a variety of music, which I do in my act, which I will be performing at 54 Below, a new club that just opened last week. And I'll be there September 17th and 23rd. My musical director is Billy Stritch. My drummer is my husband, Steve Bakunas. And a great bass player, Steve Doyle, All the Steves.
You do
come.
it all.
You have to come.
Exactly.
I do as much as I can because I love it and I want to do it.
Is that the old location of studio?
Yeah, 54, exactly.
I
It's
went
underground, though.
Back in the day, never mind.
Okay.
Okay.
See, I never did.
You know, listen, Linda Lavin is, right now as we do this program, she's performing in the Lyons, but she has so many other things coming up. Do you have a website people can check out?
I do.
Right.
It's called the Authentic Linda Lavin. Actually, it's a Facebook. I don't have a website.
Right, Facebook.
I'm on Authentic Linda Lavin Facebook, not the fan Facebook, but there's an authentic one. It'll give all the information. And the CD is called Possibilities because it's a song I sang for Hal Prince in It's a Bird, It's a Plane, It's Superman. Hal wrote the liner notes. It's on iTunes and Amazon.com. And it's a cool CD. You take it on vacation.
You honor the public television world by having you come and be here in our studio.
I'm honored to be here. Thanks.
Even though you're
I'm
a
great
neighbor
fan.
around the corner.
I'm a new fan.
Yeah.
I'll be watching you.
Well, come back in the fall, okay?
I'd love it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
See? Great people here at the Tisch WNET studio. That's why you have to watch. Be right back after this. Thank you.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Raymond de Felitta is the director of Booker's Place, a Mississippi story. Good to see you, Raymond.
Thank you for having me.
Booker's Place is all about what?
Booker's Place, the origins of this movie are actually in the 1966 NBC News documentary that my father, Frank de Felitta, made. He used to make these one-hour documentaries in the 1960s, and this one in particular, Mississippi, a self-portrait, was a look at the town of Greenwood, Mississippi.
Here on NBC.
Yeah, and he went to see what it was like during the civil rights struggle to be a white Mississippian, and not necessarily a member of the Klan. He wanted to just see the average Mississippian's life during that time of tragedy and violence. While he was there, he was having dinner in a restaurant. It was a segregated restaurant. It was called Lusco's. It's still there. It's a wonderful restaurant. It's not segregated anymore.
Right.
It was an all-black wait staff, and they used to read the menu. They didn't ever show the prices in the restaurant. So the black waiter who read him the menu, Booker Wright, performed it in this kind of Booker Wright, and he performed it in this kind of minstrel fashion. And my father was charmed and a little appalled by the performance, and he thought it would be an interesting thing to photograph this waiter doing the menu, because frankly it was a Sambo kind of act. So Booker Wright agreed. He said, sure, I'll be in your documentary. They filmed him doing the menu, and then a strange thing happened. Booker didn't stop with the menu. He went on, and to the cameras he told the truth about how he felt being a waiter in the South in a segregated restaurant. He talked about the abuse that he suffered. He talked about how sad it made him and how he had to always smile no matter how mean the people were to him. And how he did it to help his 3 children so that, as he says, they could have the life that he did.
Booker right now?
Yeah, and he was a brave man for doing it. My father put it in his film. He asked Booker if he was sure he wanted to do it, and Booker said, yes, it's been in my heart my whole life. I'd like to be in your film. And he suffered some dire consequences as a result.
We'll talk more about that. Ready to see a clip from Booker's Place, Mississippi story. Let's take a look at a clip.
Booker Place was a very powerful place that B.B. King would go up until 4 o'clock the next morning.
1966, he went on a national news program on NBC, and he talked about what it was like to be a black man in Greenwood.
I had a talk with Booker, and I said, are you sure you want to do this? This picture's going to play all over the South, and they're going to watch you, in a sense, ridicule them as being fools. The time has come. I got to talk the way I feel.
When I saw it, I thought to myself, you're a dead man. They are going to kill you. And then I thought, he knows that. He understands exactly what he's saying.
What happened to Booker?
Well, as a result of the TV appearance, he lost his job at Lusco's, and he lost it because the white patrons did not want him serving them anymore.
They fired him.
They fired him from Lusco's, and he was then beaten so severely that he was hospitalized. People at the time thought it was an attempt on his life. Nobody knew who beat him at the time. We later found out while we were making the documentary who it was. He had his own restaurant in the black side of town, Booker's Place, which we've named the film for, and they vandalized his restaurant. But he was a hero, nonetheless, to the black community in Greenwood. The speech made a difference, even though he suffered those consequences. Unfortunately, about 5 years later, 6 years later, he was murdered.
And he was murdered.
He was murdered in circumstances that, although there is an official explanation and someone is serving a life sentence and he was murdered by another African American, none of the official explanation has ever made sense to me or to Booker's granddaughter, Yvette Johnson, who's in my film and who's...
You work with Yvette.
Yeah, Yvette's really my partner in the search for the story of Booker. We wanted to find out who her grandfather was. You know, Yvette grew up hearing about the appearance in my father's film, but the film was not able to be found, really. It was sort of a lost film. In fact, I think really my father was the only one who had a 16mm copy of it. So all this started because I put the film on the internet. I wanted to share it with people. I wanted them to see Booker's life, and Yvette said, that's the piece of film I've been looking for forever about my grandfather. It brought him back to life for her.
Your dad was in it.
Yeah, that's him.
You got a smile out of you.
Well, I'm so proud to see him in it. You know, my father's 90 years old. He's in wonderful shape. He remembers everything. And I felt when I was filming him, why haven't I been doing this for years? You know, he's had an extraordinary life. He's a World War II veteran. He witnessed all of history of America from the mid-century on. And as a filmmaker, a lot of it was very influential and political, that he was up right next to seeing it. So I love the fact that I was able to do it. I have an 8-year-old son. He's going to know his grandfather for years because I was able to shoot him for this.
What was it like for your dad to see you put this together, for your dad to see Booker and to see the story told by you about the work that your dad did and the impact it had at that time?
Well, I think it was complicated because he's always had ambivalence about having used Booker's speech. You know, I mean, having very strong feelings in two opposite directions. He's very proud of the moment, and like all filmmakers, when you get a stunning moment, you want to put it in your film. But he also knew that it had a very, very difficult and in many ways negative impact on Booker's life. He had not known that Booker was murdered until...
He did not know that?
No, he knew about the beating, and he, of course, when we uncovered more of that story, I think he felt, again, he felt ambivalent about it. He felt that he had shown someone in a heroic light and given him the stage, as it were. But he also realized, no, this is a human life you're dealing with when you make a documentary. When you use a real person's story, you're taking their lives in your hands.
What impact has it had on Yvette?
I think Yvette feels like she knows a lot more about her family and where she comes from, because she's had a wonderful and very peculiarly American life. Her parents are from Greenwood, Mississippi. Booker's daughter is her mother. And her father became an NFL football star. So as a little girl, she disappeared from Greenwood and wound up growing up in a gated community in San Diego. He was a San Diego Charger. And she never really understood her Greenwood past, and she wanted to know more about that very incredible heritage that she came from. So this has been her journey, is to understand, you know, the South that her ancestors came from, and its dark and difficult history.
How can people get access to the film?
Well, the film is a VOD release, so you can get it on...
Video on demand?
Yeah, video on demand. You can get it on iTunes. You can get it on Amazon. And there's a Dateline NBC piece that they're devoting a full hour to it on July 15th, I believe, 10th or 15th, because they became fascinated by the film too. NBC, in fact, did have a copy of the film, and one of the producers at Dateline had always wanted to do an update.
Hold on, wait a minute. The original?
Of my father's documentary, yeah. So I believe their piece is, it's about Booker's story. It's also about Greenwood then and now, which is an important story to tell, because Greenwood, like all towns in Mississippi, has a complicated history. It's changed a lot. It's a very different place now.
Curious about this. For those of us in public media, public broadcasting, you know, we love the art of what we do, but we always have to figure out the business of what we do.
I wish I
got another smile out, right?
I wish I could do it, but
financing. How'd you finance it?
Well, you know, documentaries, you start by writing a check, and it's a little check.
Your own check.
Yeah, and you think, no, this time it's only going to cost this. And then you fall in love with the subject, and soon you're out asking people for money. We did not use Kickstarter. I don't know why. People seem to be financing movies on it. But we were able to get, and then we got Eye Patch Productions, which is a subsidiary of Ogilvy, the great advertising giant, came in, and they wanted to work with us on it. So they were very, very helpful in getting the film done and sold, and then ultimately Tribeca Films bought it and put it out.
Important work. The film is called Booker's Place, A Mississippi Story. Raymond, thank you very much.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You got it. One-on-one will continue right after this from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org. Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
In 1974, farmers digging in China made an amazing discovery. What they uncovered was the legendary tomb of the first emperor of China, guarded by an army of 6-foot-tall soldiers made of clay. Terracotta Warriors, the exhibition. See the astonishing life-size terracotta warriors along with over 200 artifacts from ancient China.
Kristin Romey is a curatorial consultant with Discovery Times Square. That's the Terracotta Warriors exhibit, right?
Yes.
By the way, curatorial consultant, which I worked on 7 times to say, what exactly is that?
Essentially, I talk to the media about the wonderful programs that we put on at Discovery Times Square, as well as, because I'm also an archaeologist, I give input on the shows that they put together.
And tell everyone what Discovery Times Square is.
Discovery Times Square is very interesting. It's a private venue. It's not a museum like the Met.
Right.
It's a wonderful showcase for traveling exhibits, and we've had the Titanic, we've had King Tut, Pompeii, Dead Sea Scrolls, and now we're bringing New York, the Terracotta Warriors.
This is wild. I'm reading this, I'm going, no, this can't be true. They protect these warriors, right? Describe them. This is 2,000 years ago.
2,000 years ago.
How big are these warriors?
These warriors are life-size. They're fashioned from clay.
They're clay statues. And they protected the emperor, whose name?
Qin Shi Huangdi.
Say it again.
Qin Shi Huangdi.
Which is where the name China comes from.
Yes, he was the first emperor of the Qin dynasty, and that's where we get the word China from.
Okay. And they protected him from what?
Well, the first emperor was obsessed with living forever and being remembered forever. And even more than the wonderful Great Pyramids of Egypt, he has topped them all. He was obsessed with bringing everything that he had in his everyday life to the afterlife. So we have his entire army. He has wonderful clay versions of his bureaucrats. He brought his bean counters with him into the afterlife. The horses.
They didn't have bean counters.
He was a master of bureaucracy. And that's how he managed to unify China. He conquered all of the warring states, and he organized everything from standardizing writing, currency, even the width of the carriages that went down the roads so he could build a road system.
What kind of reaction have you gotten? By the way, are we putting up shots, folks? The burial site, when the burial site comes up, what are we looking at right there?
So this is the burial site. This is Pit 1.
Pit 1?
Pit 1. There's 4 pits that we have. This one contains probably about 8,000 soldiers. It's still being excavated. And they're all in battle formation. So you have like lines of infantrymen, and then you have chariots behind them with higher ranking soldiers. And every one of these soldiers is individualized. No two look alike. They have different hairstyles, they have different facial expressions. Some of them look very smug, some look very assured, and it's just mind-blowing. But they're still digging them up, and just recently they found another 110 soldiers.
And a warrior's face is coming up? That is a warrior's face.
That is a warrior's face, yep. He looks very assured.
I'd say so. What kind of reaction have you gotten to this exhibit?
Are
people in awe?
People are, yeah. No, I think that's a perfectly legitimate word to use for this. They are awestruck. They may know vaguely that there's something called the Terracotta Warriors, but until they come to Discovery Times Square and see them in person, the life-size horses and the soldiers, 2,000 years old, made of clay, just right there, and you can just walk right up to them. It's a little mind-blowing.
What's that right there?
That is one of the infantrymen with his horse. And we have a couple horses. We have 9 original Terracotta Warriors on display. So we have, excuse me, he's actually a cavalry soldier.
A cavalry soldier?
Cavalry soldier, yeah, excuse me. We have infantry, we have cavalry, we have charioteers. So here he is with his horse. And the horses have these kind of little smiles to their face. And there's nothing I love better than coming out of the subway to go to Discovery Times Square, and there you see the New York City Mounted Police.
Right.
And they're there, and the horses have this kind of little secret smile on their face. And then I go to Discovery Times Square, and they've perfectly captured the essence of the horse, these 2,000-year-old craftsmen.
This is wild. Let me ask you something. I'm not sure you know this. What the heck does it cost to put something like this together?
Well, we were really lucky because the Chinese government was incredibly generous.
Were they?
Yeah, they were really excited about bringing their most important treasure because they only let out, less than 10 soldiers a year to travel. I mean, this is one of the ultimate ancient treasures of China.
Why did they do it?
Crossroads of the world. The Terracotta Warriors have never been in New York City.
Never.
Never. And so we have been, not in this amount, and we think there may have been like one or two before, but not a full-on exhibition of the Terracotta Warriors and everything surrounding the legacy of the first emperor.
As I'm looking at it, I'm thinking of our two boys, our two middle boys, who one is turning 8 as we do the show, and the other one's 9. I'm thinking, can they handle it?
Yes, absolutely. And this is one of the neat things about Discovery Times Square, is that we make sure we add a lot of context to the exhibition. So you have an intro movie, you have films throughout the entire exhibit, even showing how the soldiers used their crossbows back then. And they would lay on their backs and pull them with their feet.
Right.
And so there's a lot there that helps younger visitors understand what life was like back then, and to actually see these objects, because they're very relatable. You know, they're living beings. You know, they're people, they're animals. It creates a wonderful connection, and it's very, very relatable for kids.
Kristin Romey, curatorial consultant. I just needed to say it again. Terracotta Warriors, Discovery Times Square. This is a great exhibit for all ages.
Bring your kids.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. I learned a lot.
This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by Caldwell College, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. QualCare Inc., a local managed care company covering 750,000 New Jersey residents. And by Verizon Communications. Promotional support provided by The Record, North Jersey's trusted source, and northjersey.com. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.
I'm Steve Adubato. Join me for the next edition of Caucus New Jersey, Taxes, Healthcare, Education, and the Economy. I'll ask the questions that you want answered.
Airing on NJTV, 13, and WHYY. Check your local listings.